Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it looks like we got a busy week, and it's kind of a mess. And it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. I guess you gotta be careful what you wish for when you say that the Hot 100 is slow for a specific period of time, or that it's hit a vestige of normalcy. Because this week is surprisingly stacked with new releases. It might wind up longer than everyone expected, including myself. And hell, with multiple albums set for impact in the coming weeks, I'm willing to concede that I'm off on this. We could actually have a busy 2023. Unfortunately, that does not apply to our current top 10, where Flowers by Miley Cyrus holds the number one for another week. And the margins just look like they have widened. Across the board, Miley built up her sales, streaming, and radio. And that means that Kill Bill by SZA at number 2 has an uphill battle just behind her on radio and streaming, with a more considerable margin in sales. Now this seems to imply that Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift at number 3, it's on its way out. While streaming and sales are actually pretty solid, the radio is actually turning on this pretty quickly, and that did kind of surprise me. It does mean that Creepin' by Metro Boomin, 21 Savage, and The Weeknd is continuing to make its run at number 4. The radio is surging, streaming is up. It could well close that gap fast. Hell, while I expect Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras to see a boost off the album support in the coming weeks, while the sales are still good and the streaming is stable, the radio's looking to rotate this out too. And that means rising to the top of the radio charts, we have I'm Good Blue by David Guetta and BB Rexa at number 6. I mean, the sales are stable, but it's got nothing else. I don't think it's likely going to make a major push. And next up is Die For You by The Weeknd at number 7. Tangible radio traction, streaming's okay, but I don't see this seriously breaking through. Whereas Rich Flex by Drake and 21 Savage holds at number 8 with solid streaming, but looks like radio hit its peak. It's not going to go any further. Then we saw As It Was by Harry Styles rise to number 9. This is a case where the radio momentum is so entrenched that it's going to take a while for this to truly fall off. It really only picked up a spot because Shakira fell out of the top 10. And on a similar note, one new top 10 entry, Golden Hour by Jake at number 10. I mean, I did predict this was going to become a thing last year. It rode the holiday momentum well, and now with streaming and radio in its corner, I don't see it going away soon. Joy. Now in any case, let's get to our losers and dropouts, and there's really not many this week. A couple notable exits for Romantic Homicide by David, Pick Me Up by Gabby Barrett, and Victoria's Secret by Jax. But outside of that, a lot of the cuts are just not really worth mentioning. And we only have 2 losers here. Open Arms by SZA featuring Travis Scott as a late album bomb cut sliding down to number 99, and Star Walkin' by Lil Nas X, which is clearly on its way out at 80. And hell, we don't even have any returns this week, just a couple of gains, the majority of them off the debut. Yes, Wait in the Truck by Hardy and Lainey Wilson got a good boost thanks to Hardy's album. We'll circle around back to that. Go check out my review of my said album on my main channel if you haven't seen it already. And You Didn't by Brett Young is getting a boost thanks to Nashville Radio getting on board. That's a solid song. Happy to see it. And you know, while I didn't really care for either OMG by New Jeans at 79 or Heart to Heart by Mac DeMarco up to 83, they're definitely fresh on the Hot 100. I've got no problem with greater variety here. What I do have an issue with is Nonsense by Sabrina Carpenter up to 56. I've heard a lot of rumors surrounding what the hell Billboard and the labels are going to do to work out deals with songs like this. Let's just call them their misadventures moving up the Hot 100, which I talked about last week. This could be due for a sharp fall off, all I'm saying. And I wouldn't really complain the slightest if that happened. But no, as I said before, the real story this week is our new arrivals, and we have a lot of them. So let's get things started with number 100, Spit in My Face by ThxSoMch. Well, this has been a while in coming. A little-known Canadian artist going viral on TikTok late last year, crosses over everywhere else, but only has the chance to blast through on the American Hot 100 now. And, you know what? This is a case where the production could really use a better artist on it. The hazy post-punk guitars with the faster pulsating bass and the percussion with touches of breakbeat. I think it's really damn good. Shame we're stuck with ThxSoMch on the microphone, with his nasal, trippy, red-esque croaking processed through a lot of clashing vocal filters, and him yowling about this toxic relationship that he more than once likens to doing drugs. Specifically heroin. But this is also one of those toxic cuts that might push it a little too far. Unless there's a serious masochistic streak, and there might be, the junkie doing crank with a noose in the backwoods, it's all manner of red flags, especially when he doesn't seem to be having any fun at all. And I get that edginess is the point on TikTok with a song like this, especially when the production is really good, but I just think you might need more layers beyond the serious bottom bitch energy of the song. I'm more forgiving of this than most, but I'm not going to call it good. Number 98, Back End by Finesse 2 Times.
Birds of a feather, they flock together, they make you a sucker. I don't fuck with nobody. No. If you ain't mob tied, then it's fuck you. I want numbers, some money. But if they get with this shit, I'ma flush you.
Alright, here's a Memphis rapper with a cut from his 2022 mixtape that dropped in mid-July, right after he got out of prison. I'm a little bit surprised it took this long to go viral, but Memphis rap's been on the uptick the past couple of months, really past couple of years, and this guy's a well-connected rising star, and I mean, I get it, but I'm not really a fan of this. Finesse 2 Times reminds me a lot of Moneybagg Yo, with an even more gruff, animated delivery and some mostly okay flows, even if the bass clipping and cheap-sounding production really does him no favors. But really, this is the extended I'm Out freestyle that all we get is one extended verse, and I'm not sure the content is all that special or likable. He leans a lot harder on the pimping and the girls eating the dick until they throw up, and then stepping on girls' necks when he's not shooting people. Yeah, it's this kind of song. And beyond the bad taste conversation, where he seems to think it's only a problem when he does it, beyond the poop joke on the 4th line, I'm just not really sure this is the sort of personality I need more of right now, and it's not unique at that. I mean, there are better acts coming out of Memphis right now. Look at Glorilla, maybe even Moneybagg Yo. I'd pass on this. Number 96, Do It Again by NLE Choppa and Too Rare.
He's a clone. I'ma get money no matter the cost. Having some water, I'm having some boats. Got that dope, think that's your loss. He's a worker and I am a boss.
I'm kind of shocked that NLE Choppa still manages to land songs on the Hot 100 in the years since he broke out. Although this time he's brought along the up-and-coming Philly rapper Too Rare for this single from last year, and I mean, I get why it's taken off with the pulsating Jersey club bass groove, the spare percussion, that faint guitar line, the melodic sample of Rose Royce's Love Don't Live Here Anymore from 1978, but I feel like it's missing a sharper percussion presence to really drive into that hook, which feels like it's building to a crescendo but not paying it off. Now granted, for this sort of breakup song where NLE Choppa is cussing out some girl who may have cheated, and he's got a new girl even as this girl's clearly moved on, I guess it makes sense to ratchet up the tension, but man, that sample seems to lead on that NLE Choppa is a lot more hurt than he wants to admit, even as he tries to say that he's the boss and the guy's a worker. Guess we know what side of the revolution he's on. But then Too Rare comes in, and while I actually like his more melodic verse with a couple funny punchlines, it's in another dimension to the tonal clash, and it's just odd. I'll admit here that there's more that actually can work, but it's not coming together the way it should for me. It's not bad, but not great either. Number 92, AMG by Gabito, Ballesteros, Peso, Pluma, and Natanael, Cano. So I've been told that a lot of these regional Mexican songs usually have more of a live feel to them, given the party atmosphere they're trying to cultivate. Ergo, the rough, demo-esque quality of the production, it's part of the experience. I'm not sure I buy that as an excuse when this one has better vocal placement, but the acoustics sound painfully tinny, and the farty spurts of horns opposite the accordion, they're openly distracting. It completely takes away from any of our 3 vocalists. To be honest, I can barely tell them apart. None of them have a lot of character, and that's kind of a problem for a track that's all about trying to flex. And it's a weird vibe for this tone and style and genre of music. I'm not sure I want to call it bad, just kind of baffling. I feel like there's a meme with this that I'm not getting, but it's also not what I'm really enjoying here either. Next, number 91, Next Thing You Know by Jordan Davis.
Sunburn on a honeymoon beach and your left hand's getting used to that rain, and there the next 2 or 3 years gone. Next thing you know.
Hey look, Jordan Davis isn't going away for some reason, but to his credit, I was hearing that this was one of the best songs he's released thus far, from August of last year. And okay, yeah, I actually get why. I'm a sucker for long view, slice of life songs that trace someone's relationship in life from early on to old age, and Davis and his co-writers kind of nailed that gentle sweep and emotionally charged sense of detail, with a really nice cadence and melody behind this hook. It's probably his most organic production ever, with a lot of the acoustics and the lingering guitar. Hell, add in some live percussion outside of that very obvious program beat, I'd be even more on board with this. Honestly, the only real problem I have, and it's minor, it feels like Jordan Davis might be too young to sell this effectively. The immediate comparison for me is Remember When by Alan Jackson, which is a much better song because there are some darker moments, it plays a little bit less saccharine, and because even in his 40s, Alan Jackson's voice carried a weight and age. But still, I'm gonna give this to Jordan Davis. It's a really good song. Check it out. Number 90, Crazy Train by Trippie Redd and Travis Scott.
Are you ready? All aboard the fucking crazy train. Walk up in this bitch and make it rain.
This is the first of 3 songs from Trippie Redd that charted this week. They all have guest stars, because I've come to realize over the past couple years, most folks don't seem to seek out Trippie Redd on his own like they used to. Now, this one's got Travis Scott. It's clearly trying to evoke more of a rap rock vibe for the Rage production, with the bass swamping out the mix, but those sizzling rock guitars. I gotta admit, if the mixing wasn't so cruddy and badly integrated with Travis Scott's verse just dropped on top, I would probably like this a decent bit more. Hell, when you look at all the content, it's just empty rockstar preening with a pretty solid hook. This could honestly work on the shallowest level possible if it was mixed and mastered even somewhat decently. Shame it wasn't. Doesn't get to that level. Number 86, Fully Loaded by Trippie Redd, Future, and Lil Baby.
Fully loaded, fully loaded, fully loaded, fully loaded.
And now we have Trippie Redd recruiting Future and Lil Baby for a song all about shooting people. Charming. But what might be more distracting is the drippy spurts of trap percussion trying to match up with the squealing pileup of synths that kind of remind me more of a 6ix9ine beat than anything else. It's distracting when you realize that the hook is completely bereft of any passion to sell it. And I mean, you might get and expect that from Future. His verse is more generic more than outright bad. But what the hell happened to Lil Baby, who is off-key, off-rhythm, and off topic to an extent, it makes me think this verse was intended for a different song. When the folks on Genius are openly clowning on your verse for being this bad, you got real problems. Otherwise, the song is mediocre at best. Next, number 84, Moonlight Sunrise by Twice. You know, if we're going to keep getting more K-pop flooding in, I like that Twice is actually starting to get in on that action. I really liked the feels a couple years ago. The songs I have heard in passing have been really fun. I've wanted to do the proper deep dive into their albums at some point, and with this single, okay, it's good, I just don't quite like it as much as I would prefer. Don't get me wrong, Twice have a lot of personality, a lot of playful vocal interplay, and they really nail love-struck fun really effectively. You know what, it might be a production problem here. The synths are chillier off the guitar raw, like the bass beat feels kind of blockier, and with the clicking, borderline trap percussion, it honestly reminds me a little bit too much of when trap percussion just completely overtook pop in the late 2010s. That was a pretty rough era in retrospect. I don't know, this is mostly fun, I dig it, but I know Twice can throw it back to better. Number 82, Gangsta Boo by Ice Spice and Lil Tjay.
For the night, but I'm too shy to invite you. You got a gangsta vibe, and I want a gangsta boo. One of a dangerous kind, I'm trying to see how a gangsta move.
Oh, I really wish this wasn't the Ice Spice song that crossed over, but In Hamoud was stranded in the bubbling under, Princess Diana didn't even get close, and this got the Lil Tjay guest verse that's mixed to sound like it was recorded in a different studio, if not a different state. I also think that it's kind of tacky that we got a song called Gangsta Boo that can't even bother to reference the late 3-6 Mafia member who passed away far too soon on the first day of this year and paved so much of the lane for Ice Ice Spice. But we don't even need to focus on that to realize this song's lousy. The bass mixing is offensively bad, opposite the painfully weedy sample of Diddy's I Need a Girl Part 2. Ice Spice's dead-eyed flow is as dull as ever, and the focal point of the song is that even though she's got a guy already, she wants a gangsta to overtake his girls. And that might not be the best option, because Lil Tjay threatens to shoot that guy by the end of his own verse. I mean, for a song that's trying to make this hookup interesting or sound appealing, it's just remarkably unpleasant. It's a lousy song from a bad EP. Next, number 81, I Wish You Roses by Uchis. So I skipped covering Uchis' 2020 sophomore album. Didn't really care for Isolation. That one was predominantly in Spanish. I was setting myself up to fail if I had covered it. Now she's planning to release 2 albums this year, one in English, one in Spanish. This is a single from the former, and oh god damn it, I don't really like this either. At all. The washed out guitars, the ugly synth mix that sounds off key, the stiff percussion, the wonky backing vocal mixing where the falsetto almost feels piercing, and then that breakdown at the very end that does not fit the vibe. It's trying to create this lush, humid atmosphere, but it's all for a breakup song where she's wishing him well, hoping that even if their time together is fleeting, there might be some good memories, and then the outro has her cooing, "You're gonna want me back, you're gonna want me bad," and what happened to all that sensual maturity and wisdom here? Yeah, the vocals are reasonably pretty, the bass line is nice, but this feels petty and trying to hide it behind a lot of new age atmospherics. It doesn't feel as enlightened as you're trying to sell, and the faux psychedelic repetitive structure feels really underwritten, just repeating roses. I mean, Jhené Aiko often plays in this exact same territory, but A, she's a better singer, B, her framing is actively aware of how toxic and messy it all can be, and C, her writing is layered and detailed and introspective enough to actually do something with it. To be charitable, you can argue that on the breakdown, where the song might be transitional into another track on the album, might flesh out the story more, but we don't have that yet. This feels like an album cut where it's on its own, it's painfully incomplete. And I know I'm going to be in the minority with this, but I think this is awful. I would put money on it becoming a standalone hit, though. Ugh. Number 72, 1035 by Tiesto featuring Tate McRae. And here's another song I've just been waiting to see cross over. It's been charting overseas for a while now, and hey, maybe Tiesto can make Tate McRae actually kind of interesting for once. And I hate to say this, but this was a song where I looked at the writing and production credits, I saw Ryan Tedder's name and said, oh yeah, this sounds like a dance remix of a One Republic song in the modern era, with Tate McRae singing instead. That's a downgrade. Maybe it's the faster tempo, or how Tate McRae rides the cadence of the song, and reminds me bizarrely of Counting Stars against the lower pulsating groove, and she doesn't ride it well. She doesn't really have a lot of organic fire or tightness to command it, which also is kind of the point of the song, where she's so scared of so much, but thanks to this guy that this time that she's now with, she doesn't have that fear anymore. But that doesn't exactly make her a compelling presence to drive the song. Granted, it's not like Tiesto actually gives her production with much texture or punch. The business, this is not. But overall, just feels like a pale facsimile of something that could have been done better. I'm not gonna call it bad. Not really good either. Number 64, Red by Hardy featuring Morgan Wallen.
Cause you're thankful for every shipped off soul that was born to fight for a wind-torn flag that's blue and white and red.
I already mentioned this one in passing when I reviewed Hardy's new album, The Mockingbird and the Crow, last week, and while I'm not a fan of this at all, it's also nowhere near as bad as plenty of other songs on that project. What I did not expect was that thanks to a pretty awful Royal Rumble performance, a lot of folks who you would think normally be in Hardy's target audience flipped on him en masse, with a sort of backlash I did not see coming. So it's a little weird for me to now take pot shots at the song for reasons that feel very separated from the general public, but again, Red's not really a good song. Now you might think it's got potential with the live drums, the gentle guitar, guitar, and that Joey Moy gives it some burly rollick in the production. But Morgan Wallen's vocals sound so overprocessed, and the lyrical cadence scans awkwardly to me, with the usage of the word red feeling very stiff and staccato. But really, the line that annoyed me the most was, "I ain't talking about politics, I'm talking small town." And you know what? Forget the possibility of a coded Republican dog whistle. To Hardy or Morgan Wallen, or guys who grew up on small towns talking about beer and hot girls and farming and blowing their money on tires and the military and Old Glory, it's not political. Because it is their normal. But that's also the kind of privilege that keeps them from seeing that to a lot of other folks out there, it very much is political. You can't always assume it's a universal sentiment to pull people together, especially with Morgan Wallen as the main feature. Hell, I'm Canadian, I can see that. And again, while this is nowhere near as bad as some other songs on the album, or hell, other songs I'm covering this week, it's still not very good. Let's just move on. And finally, number 52, Nightcrawler by Trippie Redd and Juice WRLD.
Kids don't try that shit at home. I forgot how sober feel. Life ain't getting super real. Leave me alone, I'm in my zone. She do white like Home Alone.
And of course, the biggest song charting this week as a guest feature from the late Juice WRLD. And God, I'm so tired of this. Apparently, this was an old Juice WRLD demo, which was just him on the song. But now Trippie Redd threw a verse on it, threw it on his own album. Oh God, this should have stayed in the drafts. The goopy buzz of synths that wound up like someone threw up over a synthesizer from the late 2000s, the bass that swamps out everything, and Juice WRLD's belting to try and cut through it all. And yeah, he's got the power to do that, but that only exposes his content, which is Juice WRLD on his self-destructive drug abuse and screwing your girl, all of which has a really ugly taste coming years later in 2023. It also doesn't really match what Trippie Redd is doing, which is just more outwardly aggressive and hedonistic. It also sounds considerably better blended into this mix. His bit of intensity is enough to barely save this. I actually didn't mind his verse at all. But my God, can we stop recycling Juice WRLD's name for chart presence? It's fucking disgusting by this point. I'll say it again. But it's not the worst of this week. My God, we got a wealth to choose from there. But the songs I like the least, Gangsta Boo by Ice Spice and Lil TJ's getting the dishonorable mention. The worst of the week is going to I Wish You Roses by Kali Uchis. I know, big surprise, but I had an allergic reaction to this song. Tracks that are this nakedly unpleasant on the surface. I mean, they don't hold a candle to the ones that start off smelling really sweet, only to showcase this rotten bouquet beneath the surface. And while I've got the unpopular opinions, Best of the Week is Next Thing You Know by Jordan Davis. Honorable mention, I was actually closer to giving it to NLE Choppa or ThxSoMch, but let's be real, it's Moonlight Sunrise by Twice. It's at least consistently competent. Next week, I hope the majority of this goes away and we get whatever the hell comes from Lil Yachty, Sam Smith, maybe Ava Max. Stay tuned for that. Till then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.